What's up, this is Alex, DJ Couch King. I've had the Jesse Dean Tonearm installed on my portable turntables for a little under 6 months now, so I thought it was time to do a review. In this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know to decide whether or not this is a worthwhile upgrade for your portable turntables. In this video, I'm going to talk about 4 main points to consider before installing one of these Tonearms into your portable turntable. I'm going to talk about the installation, I'm going to talk about the build quality, I'm going to talk about the tracking, and I'm going to talk about the sound quality. First, let's talk about the installation. I'll put a link in the description below on Jesse Dean's video on how to install this into your PT01 or PT01 Scratch. It's pretty straightforward, and with the 2018 kits that he's sending out, there's no soldering required. So if you're worried about soldering, it's a thing of the past. It took me about an hour to get it installed into my turntable, and it was pretty straightforward. I think anybody can do this with the right tools and a minimal amount of effort. And again, all that will be covered in Jesse Dean's video in the description, so check that out. Next, let's talk about the build quality. Overall, the build quality is pretty solid. It's made out of carbon fiber, so it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of opportunity to bend or break this. The one thing that was a little bit disappointing is that there's just a little too much play between the Tonearm and the turntable when it's installed. I have 2 of these, and this is the case with both of them. So, I thought maybe the first one, the manufacturing wasn't done that well. It's not the case. It's consistent across both of them, which makes me think that it's consistent across all of them. Now, this isn't a deal breaker, but for something that costs more than the actual turntable you're going to install it in, I was a little disappointed with that, to say the least. So let's get to what most of the people probably want to hear about, and that's the tracking. The tracking is phenomenal. I mean, if you're used to the stock Tonearm, this is going to be the biggest deal for you. I mean, it's such a huge upgrade, it feels like a completely different turntable. Now granted, I also installed an aluminum platter into my turntable, and if you haven't done that, I would probably even recommend doing that before you upgrade your Tonearm, because it just makes the platter so much more solid and you don't get the wobbliness and whatever else. So the combination of having the aluminum platter and the upgraded Tonearm, it feels almost, not quite, but almost like a full-size turntable, and it is great. Now, Jesse Dean recommends putting 5 to 6 grams of pressure. I got it down to about 4, which for me is a sweet spot. Shure recommends about, no more than 3.5 grams of pressure on the stylus, and that's a nice place to be. I couldn't quite get there with this Tonearm. Even backing the tension adjustment all the way back, it still ended up between 4 and 5, but that's still reasonable. Regardless though, it tracks really well. I was in the car on the way up to a gig, and we were going up a mountain up to Lake Tahoe, and I'm sitting there and I'm cutting and I'm scratching, and the needle's it's just sticking to the record like glue. With the turntable sitting in my lap and me going at it, us going over bumps in the car, it may have skipped once, but I'm in the car. I mean, it's just amazing. So the tracking here, despite all of my gripes and my complaints, much better than the stock Tonearm. So it's going to be a huge upgrade. And despite the price tag of this Tonearm, I think it's totally worth it if you're serious about having a portable scratching rig, because we all know that when you're sitting there with the stock Tonearm and the stock platter and everything on there, it sucks. Finally, let's talk about the sound quality. The sound quality is huge. Once you come out of the line output into an actual DJ mixer, or even just at the aux out into your Bluetooth speaker, the clarity of the samples on your scratch records, it's just night and day. You can't even compare. So again, hats off to Jesse Dean. I don't know if he designed the preamp himself or if he just found a generic preamp and kind of put that in line, but either way, sounds great. This is probably one of, aside from the additional tracking that you get, this is probably one of the best reasons to upgrade your PT01 Scratch, because when you're cutting and you're scratching, it's you want nice, loud, punchy, clear cuts, and this does a great job at that. So I approve. We talked about the build quality. I gave you my gripes, the little bit of play. But that's really it, you know. And again, not a deal breaker. I thought that overall the build quality is really nice, and I don't worry about this breaking when I'm tossing my PT01 Scratch around. Also talked about the tracking. Tracking is a huge upgrade from the stock Tonearm. Make sure you find a scale and weigh it and adjust it to be the right amount of pressure for the needles that you're using. Otherwise, you're going to ruin your records. You might even break your needles. So just keep that in mind. Again, not a deal breaker. It just takes a little bit of extra effort. Once you get it dialed in, it's really, really nice. And finally, the sound quality, as I told you already, I think is just phenomenal. Huge upgrade, night and day. I can't praise Jesse Dean enough for the quality of the preamp that he's sending out with these kits. I think it's awesome. So good job there. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts about this are. Are you using one of these in your turntable? Did you have a hard time installing it? Thanks for watching. Peace.